Hi, everybody. Today we're going to be talking about 6.4, which is the percent equation. So we talked about 6.3 last time, and it was the percent proportion. So today we're going to be talking about the equation, okay? So before we begin, make sure you have your math composition notebook out and your writing utensil ready to write. And just a reminder, everything that is on my screen should be copied down into your composition notebook. So please make sure you are doing that as we go through and pause if needed. So the first thing I'd like you to write down is the learning target. And it is, I will be able to find percents using the percent equation. So today I'm going to teach you how to use the percent equation. So to begin, why don't you pause your screen and I would like you to write this whole thing down in your notebook so that you have it, okay? So pause and write that. Okay, so the percent equation. To represent A is P percent of W, use an equation. So this is similar to the proportion, except we're setting it up as an equation. Okay, so A is going to be the part, all right? A is going to be the part, and that's going to be on the left side of the equation. Then this is going to be the percent, but please be careful and read this. It either needs to be in fraction or decimal form. And I'm going to really recommend that you just stick to decimal form. So that percent, it has to be represented as decimal form or you will not get the right answer. And it's going to be times the whole. Okay? So that is pretty much the equation. So for example, 15 equals 0.5 times 30. So that's an example. So this would be the part. This would be the percent as a decimal. Percent as a decimal. And 30 would be the whole. Okay? So let's go through an example and see how we can apply this. So finding a part of a number. What number is 24% of 50? So we still want to do the same thing. So let's write our setup. It's going to be part equals percent times whole. Okay, so I know right away my percent is always going to be the one with the percent symbol attached to it. So this is going to be the percent. And then our language stays the same. We're still going to use the of and the is to help us figure out which one's the part and which one's the whole. So since this says of 50, I know that 50 is going to be my whole, okay? So let's fill this in. I don't know my part, so I'm going to represent it with an X. My percent is 24%, but remember, you don't put the actual percent, you have to write it as a decimal. So 24% as a decimal is going to be 24. Write the decimal point there. Go to the left, That's actually going to equal 0.24. So we're going to write it as 0.24 times the whole is 50. It is very, very important that you write it as a decimal and not the percent because you will get very, very different answers. Okay, so now just to solve for x, literally all we have to do is multiply those together. So we're going to go 0.24 times 50 in my calculator, and that is going to give me 12, which that tells me that my part is 12. So let's write this sentence. So, well, I know the number is 12 now. So 12 is 24% of 50. And that is my final answer. Okay, so this one was pretty straightforward. Let's look at another example that is going to actually have a solve for x this time. So finding a percent, okay? So again, let's write our equation. So it's going to be part equals the percent times the whole. Okay, and then it says 9.5 is what percent? What percent? So we do not know the percent, so that's going to be x, of 25. Okay, of 25, so that's going to be our whole. And then that means that our part is going to be up here, right here. Okay, and then let's take a peek at this estimate, okay? This is just a bar graph, and this is just telling you 9.5 is what percent of 25. So essentially in this bar graph, they kind of just use a prediction. So 9.5 would be right here. And if you see what percentage would that be out of 25, well, they kind of do the shading and they see, well, it should be somewhere around 40%-ish. So let's see if our estimate is correct. So our part is 9.5. So let's fill that in. our percent, we don't know it, so we're going to write X, and our whole is 25. So remember, if you multiply a variable with a number, they just stick together. And the number should always go in front of it. So we're going to write it as 9.5 equals 25x. Well, now we want to solve for x. So we know how to do this. We need to divide both sides by 25. And that's going to give me x equals, and I'm going to go in my calculator very carefully and write 9.5 divided by 25. And that's going to give me 0.38. Is that my answer? That's a decimal. And it says what percent, but that's a decimal. So remember what we had to do up here. You turn the percent into a decimal. So this is always going to be a decimal, which means your final step is you need to turn 0.38 into a percent. Okay? So we're going to go 0.38. You can multiply by 100 or just go to the right, and that's going to give me 38%. And that is your percentage, not the decimal. It's 38. You actually have to turn it into a percent. So let's write our sentence. So 9.5 is 38% of 25. And that's your final answer. Okay, so that was finding a percent. So make sure that if you get the decimal that you have to turn it back into a percent. Okay, so we gotta do some converting here and there. Okay, and then finally, let's look at our example 3, finding a whole. So again, let's write our setup. It's part equals percent times whole. And let's read it. 39 is 52% of what number? So that means we don't know the whole, okay? Because this represents the whole because the of is before it. So I don't know the whole, so I'm going to write an X. The percent is 52% because of the percent symbol. But remember, we don't just write 52%. We have to change it to a decimal. So we're going to do to the left, and that's going to give me 0.52. So we're going to have 0.52 times x equals, and the part is 39. Okay, now if we want to solve for x, what do we need to do to both sides? Well, what's attached to the x? 0.52. So we're going to divide both sides by 0.52. Those are going to cancel. We're going to be left with x equals, and let's do 39 divided by 0.52. That is going to give me 75. So that is our whole. So let's write that. So 39 is 52% of 75. Okay, and that is our final answer. And you can see by the estimate that it was around 50%. Okay, so we know that we were on the right track. So that's finding the whole. So pretty much you plug it into this equation, you solve for x, and then you find your missing piece, whether that's the part, the whole, or the percent. So these two on your own, it says write and solve an equation to answer the question. What number is 10% of 20? And what number is 150% of 40? Right now, I would like you guys to write a percent equation for these two. So go ahead, pause it, and when you finish, type in your answer, and then we'll go over it as a class. Okay, so it says what number is 10% of 20? So remember, it's part equals percent times whole. So our percent is 10%, but remember, we have to write it as a decimal. So to do that, you're going to do 10 divided by 100. That's going to make it into a decimal. So that's going to give me 0.1. Okay? Times, it says of 20. So I know 20 is my whole. So 20 is my whole, which means I don't know my part. So I'm going to write it as an x. Well, to solve for x, I literally just multiply 0.1 times 20, and I get 2, which means my part is 2. So 2 is 10% of 20. Okay, so I figured out that one. Now, let's do the same thing for over here. It's going to be part equals percent times whole. it says, what number is 150% of 40? Well, remember, 150 is our percent because of the percent symbol, but we have to turn it into a decimal first. So I'm going to go 150 divided by 100. That's going to give me 1.5 times. The whole is going to be 40 because the of is in front of it. Okay, so we're going to go times 40 equals, we don't know the part because it says what number. So we're going to represent it with x. So now to solve for x, we literally just do 1.5 times 40, and that is going to give me 60. Okay, so let's write, so 60 is 150% of 40. Okay, so these were just practicing finding the parts. On your homework, you will practice finding both the percents, the wholes, and the parts. Okay, make sure you have all of these notes down in your math composition notebook, and we will begin on the Big Ideas assignment soon. Nice job, and thanks for watching.